You have to put the leash on
I
it.
just took him off so he can go.
And if you're in Mexico,
I'm gonna crop with the bag.
if you're
I
in
don't
Mexico,
need you to tell
you're in
me.
Mexico, you have to speak Spanish, okay? Go back to your country.
Nearly 2 million foreigners arrived at the Mexico City International Airport in the first half of this year. Activists and researchers warn a digital nomad influx in the capital is exacerbating inflation.
They're now becoming too expensive for Mexican citizens to live in because people that are actually buying these property developments are being able to do so because they either make money in US dollars or because they're working remotely.
With its digital nomad population tripling over the last 3 years, the landscape of Mexico City is changing. To understand how these changes are affecting locals, we talked to Cecilia Gandarilla. She's a longtime resident of Mexico City who has had to move neighborhoods during the pandemic.
Lo que he logrado percibir de mi círculo o de personas a las que luego les preguntas sobre esto, sí es de cierta inconformidad, ¿no? Una falta tal vez de empatía, como falta de interés en hablar el idioma, y ahora con la inflación creo que eso ha repercutido en muchísimas situaciones que afectan a la vivienda, al acceso a una vida digna, a varios aspectos que conforman una ciudad.
I've lived in Mexico City for 18 months. The price has gone up by probably 2 to 3 times since I've been here. It's troubling because you move to a place because you love the culture, and that includes the people that live there. Whereas what happens, I find, is that when gentrification happens, you kind of lose the very essence of why you moved there in the first place.
How do you think locals feel about people moving to Mexico City?
I think they're probably torn. There's probably a level of happiness that they get to share their city, but I think there's a unhappiness with too many people coming in and forcing people who maybe have lived in, for example, Condesa and Roma their whole lives to then not be able to afford to live in the places that they grew up.
Según un artículo, 20,000 personas son desplazadas a la periferia de la ciudad. Es lo principal que he notado, como cierta inconformidad, pero sobre todo por el alza de precios que se han suscitado hace más de un año. Sin embargo, no es algo a lo que se le deba de culpar a los turistas. Creo que más bien el problema es la sistematización de la desigualdad.
Alongside Cecilia and Alex, we talked to Carla Luisa Escofi Duarte, who has worked on right-to-housing cases in multiple Mexico states, to get a top-down view of how housing is changing in Mexico City.
Actualmente el contexto al que nos enfrentamos en México es resultado de una serie de omisiones y acciones en torno al tema de vivienda y en la ciudad. Y lo que estamos viendo actualmente es que uno de esos problemas es la gentrificación, pero no es el único. Pero esa es una problemática que siempre ha existido en las ciudades, pero es un hecho que con la pandemia a agudizar ciertos procesos o acelerarlos, de tal manera que lo que vimos es que pues toda la discusión en torno a plataformas turísticas de arrendamiento a corto plazo, como es el caso de Airbnb, pues tuvo un impulso significativo en comparación a lo que ya se venía platicando antes.
Of course, Mexico City isn't the only place affected by gentrification since the pandemic. However, the lack of social housing policies in Mexico has intensified local issues compared to other cities abroad.
Ciudad como Barcelona, el gobierno ha estado implementando una estrategia que se denomina vienesa, en la cual están de la atención porque era sensibilizar a la industria inmobiliaria para que no hicieran tanto acaparamiento y también tomaran en cuenta a la comunidad local.
At the moment, I feel like all the nomads have come in, like myself, and nobody quite knows how to live alongside them. But what I do know is that if we can make it works for both bringing in tourism and getting more money into communities, but also helping local residents and not make sure that it doesn't feel like it exploits them or pushes them out of the communities that they love.
Lo que sí creo que es indispensable es que no podemos dejar de apuntar que esta problemática que se está viviendo, aunque parezca ser un conflicto entre civiles, realmente es un asunto político. No es posible definir como una lista definitiva, específica de qué es lo que tiene que hacer el Estado mexicano, sino que se tiene que adecuar al contexto nacional, local, entre otros factores que hay que tener en consideración.
The issues surrounding gentrification in Mexico City are just now beginning to be addressed. For instance, officials recently proposed a bill taxing digital nomads. Initiatives trying to solve housing issues can also be seen on the global stage, with places like Milan and Spain introducing more social housing projects and rent control. And cities like New York and Vienna are beginning to have stricter guidelines for short-term rentals. With over half the global population living in major cities, these movements and policies will only grow in importance.